Welcome to the Marketing for the Culture podcast, powered by the African American Marketing Association. Each week, we'll bring you an insightful conversation from some of the best experts in our industry on how to advance our career. Join the collective of Black marketers across the world, advancing their brand as we work towards creating a collaborative community. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Marketing for the Culture podcast, powered by the African American Marketing Association. I am Michelle Gomez, and today's special guest is Daria Fennell. She is an entertainment publicist that has been in the game for over 20 years, and she has worked with some of our favorite people and brands. Daria, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Michelle, and I'm Daria Fennell, and I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So how did you get started in entertainment PR?
Actually, it's interesting. I was an official entertainment publicist my sophomore year at the University of Maryland at College Park. I am completely 100% self-taught. And so I wrote a press release for one of my student Black Women's Council organizations on campus meetings. And one of our really popular DJs in the DC area came, and I was like, to our meeting, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay. And then my friend Sophia, I will never forget this, Michelle, as long as I live. So my friend Sophia was like, why don't you go out for C Productions and Student Entertainment Enterprises Productions? We did all of the celebrities that came to campus, 100% student run, and we negotiated contracts. They would work and do the staging and swap it out and do PR, marketing. So I became the publicist my sophomore year in Maryland. And I worked with everybody, literally, my sophomore year. I was an official entertainment publicist. So whoever came to campus, I did their on-campus press. So for me, that included Wu-Tang Clan, Run DMC, G-Love and Special Sauce. They were a cute little white boy alternative band, real cool. Dr. Lenise Bias, the late great Maryland star, Lynn Bias's mom, came with like a motivating word. She was incredible. And then I also did PR for on campus, our big time at the time sports columnist Tony Kornheiser. So I was like, oh, I like this. Like I had always grown up, my family, we love music, Michelle. My uncle John used to play sax for Millie Jackson. Like our family is diehard music, diehard popular culture. And I've been writing since I was 10 years old. I'm 100% self-taught. I didn't go to school for PR. Didn't go to school for journalism. My degree is in Afro-American studies with a minor in film and theater. So I just loved it. And that's where I am today, like running CEO, Director of PR and Brand Strategy and Celebrity Entertainment Journalist, the Daria Fennell Media Group. And I love it. I love it.
So what do you do, or how do you work with your clients today?
Well, since beginning at Maryland, I placed clients on the PR side, Forbes Magazine, the Washington Post, XM Radio, the New York Amsterdam News. And then as a celebrity journalist, Michelle, I've interviewed Taraji P. Henson, my fellow DC native, John Legend, Anthony Hamilton, Ron Fest, Leela James, on and on and on and on. So I love it. It's like whether I'm doing publicity or, as publicist or entertainment publicist, or I'm working as celebrity journalist. Like I love both of them. It just depends on, what my client needs. Or am I writing for a media outlet, or am I just doing PR? I just got rehired today by my 2021 Pan-African Film Festival nominee. Thank you. They got distribution from Netflix, in part to my publicity I got for them earlier in the year. So two of my clients, a brother and sister, are the writer and director and lead actress. They're out of Johannesburg, South Africa. And my other client is out of LA. So I'm really excited about that. I start working with them on their Netflix launch July 23rd tomorrow. So yeah, thank you, Michelle. I'm excited.
Congratulations. I caught you just in time in that little window.
Yes. You got a little, insider scoop.
Squeeze this interview in. That's great. And so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Oh, and see, I told y'all she's worked with our favorite brands. Okay. Favorite people, our favorite brands. So
yes.
So, okay. There's so many angles I want to go.
Okay.
Similar to you, I kind of fell into the entertainment publicist realm when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
It's well, I always say marketing is so broad, and then you have PR, advertising, journalism. There's like thin lines between each sector because we're working together, or we're writing, or something like
We're
that.
definitely overlapping always, right? Absolutely. But some people don't understand that they're all different functions. Branding is the total umbrella, top of the umbrella, and then everything else, PR, marketing, advertising, that falls underneath.
Yeah, so I love it. Very well put. I feel like PR doesn't get enough credit.
No, we don't.
People want the end result, right? They want their red carpet, they want their name in Forbes, all that kind of stuff. So when is the right time, or what should one consider when it comes to hiring a publicist?
Great question, Michelle. I don't think PR gets our proper respect because at the end of the day, all these lights and light bulbs and flashlights and all of that, if they don't know your story, people don't really, people like to know your story. And that's where PR and publicity comes in and why it's so important. I also tell people with a company, Michelle, or a business, or if they're an actor or what have you, what's the point of having, doing all these amazing projects if nobody knows about it? Social media is important, but Michelle, I will be 50 in 2 years, right? So I didn't grow up on social media. Like, social media is just the 2021 version of word of mouth. That's all it is. It's cool, to be on these different stages on Clubhouse and all of that. But if no one knows who you are and how you got started, it doesn't really matter. People love your story. And I think that's what makes people stand out. They don't realize it. But your story is unique to each person. And why you're interested in what you're interested in is totally different for each person. So what I would say for somebody who needs to hire a publicist, one, do you need a publicist yet? Have you built your brand to the point that you need a publicist? And that depends on a few things. Are you being visible? Is your brand scaling? What are you specifically doing that's standing out? Because the journalists don't want just any fluff. They want actual concrete indicators of your success. Even if you're, like a Black-owned business that maybe has now gone to like the Fortune 100, like that's a big deal. Journalists want a good story, right? So it's like you have to bring a good story, tell them why, they should care about you. And then once you can answer that, then I think it's time to hire a publicist.
You said something very interesting to me. You said, is your brand scaling? So how can we determine that?
Yeah, some people, I guess just a quick example of that, Michelle, that's a great question, would be that you started doing products out of your house and now you've moved into an actual space, like a small warehouse. So yeah, your product's obviously, scaling then, you know what I mean? So, but in terms of music artists, it's a little different. It's not as concrete and visible as that, right? Maybe you put out an EP in 2017 that made some traction. Maybe, you got a few write-ups, but maybe you, in the meantime, from 2017, Michelle, now it's 2021 and you just got signed to a major label. That's scaling, right? So it's like, it just depends. Yeah, it just depends on the business, Michelle, or the artist, or what kind of artist it is. But everybody scales in their own way. And I guess the more important thing is, like I said, and like I always say, is to have that unique story. That's what the journalist is really interested in. They're not interested in all the fluff pieces. They're interested in why you do what you do and why do you love doing it. And I think that's the point of hiring a publicist, to get that story out in the media so people can support you and, of course, purchase your products or come to your shows, et cetera.
Yeah, I know for me, like for my personal brand, I've been hovering over the 5,000 followers. And I feel like I have lost some opportunities because I don't have enough followers. But then I've been very fortunate to I guess, make a decent living with what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
And I kind of battle with that because it's like, I do know I'm doing great now and I can definitely make more money. But if I do have some more followers, I could probably get more opportunities as well. And I consider that part of my brand scaling.
Yeah, that is kind of a catch-22, right? Because you have what it takes, you're doing it, and you're doing your career at a high level. So it's like the things with the followers, though, is like sometimes don't get so entrenched in how many followers you have. You have quality over quantity, right? So I think that is more important than the followers. I know there are, of course, there are some brands that look at your numbers, but I think that's kind of weird sometimes because people sometimes will have the big numbers, Michelle, but they don't offer anything, right? They're not the real deal like you are. So it's, it kind of is a catch-22. It's like, I'd rather have and hire you as an influencer who I know is actually the real deal versus somebody with a lot of numbers. So it just depends. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. And
it's very weird now to me that it's like, like I said, I'm 47 years old. Like, I didn't grow up on social media. Nobody cared about your numbers, Michelle. When I was coming up, it was like, how many real records, vinyl records have you sold? You know what I mean? Like real, like tangible, tangible, like Michael Jackson, Prince numbers, you know what I mean? Madonna numbers. So now it's kind of weird to me that it's like, it's always numbers. I'm like, on social media, social media is just a part of somebody's brand and their hard work. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of weird to me.
But I think for people, it's easier because that's what they can see, right? Mm-hmm. So if I don't
visible,
anything, I can go to your Instagram page, LinkedIn or whatever, see those numbers, and then they're going to determine if they want to initiate
work with you,
or not. And it is interesting, and I definitely have this battle with myself from time to time throughout the year. Because a lot of my business is referral, but repeat clients are referral, but it has been harder for me to get some of the, I guess, bigger names because of my social
media. Michelle, have you looked into maybe getting a person specifically just for your social media?
I've played around with a couple of different things. And I'm actually doing something right now.
Okay.
So my new strategy is pretty much just being more personable, more photos of myself. So more photo shoots and stories behind that. And so far it's been very successful.
Good.
For mid-June. Did something that was very successful. So, and that's another thing, just playing around and seeing what works too.
Yeah. And some things, it's so weird, Michelle. Sometimes I post on Facebook and I'll think it's just, just me being quirky Daria and making people laugh. And then people will just like resonate and it'll take off. And I'm like, why does everybody like this little meme? It's so silly, but it's like, they love it, right? And then the things I think they would like and radiate to, they don't like. So it's just like, okay.
It's a hard code to crack at times.
It is.
One thing I feel like that's really important. Unfortunately, I had a bad hire recently.
I'm sorry to hear that because it's not easy. Yeah, that's not easy.
I have to learn from my mistakes, but it speaks to the importance of writing. And I think because of this digital texting as well as social media, writing is neglected. And I don't have kids, I could be out of touch. But you as a writer, editor, publicist, can you speak to the importance of writing, especially as, I'm going to just say, a marketer in general?
Michelle, the power of writing, like, this is so sensitive to me. Because I do feel, honestly, some of the things, Michelle, I get, like the bios of somebody who wants me to interview them, or a press kit, or it's like typos galore, like grammatical errors. And I keep telling people, I was on Clubhouse stages this whole like holiday weekend. I had a ball. Like I was in a Black business stage for the AKAs. And I just told them, it was nice. It was fun. But I just told them in terms of like, like writing and sending your bio to someone, like always, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I believe number one. But number two, Michelle, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't cost a lot just to have a quality bio written, no grammatical errors, no typos. And I've gotten countless bios that have like typos in them. But it's like, if you don't care enough about your own career, amen. If you don't care enough about your own career to send somebody like me who you're trying to get in touch with, work with, either I'm going to interview you or possibly you'll be my PR client. If you don't care enough about yourself and your own career, why should I? And those right in the trash on my email, I'm not even going to look at it. It doesn't make sense. The other thing that bothers me too is when people send a pitch. Like I wrote for Uptown Magazine several years ago. And instead of knowing what I do and what I pitch and what you need to pitch me, they're sending like the most outrageous like topics and things I don't even write and cover on. Like you need to do your research, people. Like do your research. We have Google. I grew up on encyclopedias, Britannicas, right? I had to go to the library and take the encyclopedia out and learn on some stuff. You just got something in your hand you hold and just put something in and it brings it up. Do your research. Okay.
Well, folks ain't ready.
They're not ready. I'm a Sagittarius girl. I keep it 100. I mean well, but I speak my truth. And just do your research.
Yeah.
Y'all wearing me out.
Yeah. I mean, basic research in writing, it goes along.
That's it. Like, even like a paragraph, Michelle, like, if you're going to send somebody a 3 or 4 page, 3 or 4 sentences, they just need to be well written. No typos, grammatically sound, makes sense. It's just like, just take integrity and just be proud of your work and what you're presenting to the world. Like that is so important. It's even deeper than branding. Like I tell people brand, everyone's throwing this word around branding, Michelle, but a lot of people don't get it. Branding, I would say I have a little thing that my graphic designer did for my company. Branding is everything from the way you answer your telephone to the way you dress, to the way you send an email, the tone of your email, to the way you talk to someone in person, to the way you shake somebody's hand. All of that is your personal brand that goes into your business brand, right? So it's like, it's like you got to be real people. Yeah. People see bullshit a mile away. Like if you're not in integrity, if you're not an authentic person, I'm going to be able to see that because people feel I'm a very intuitive person. And when I know someone's real and it's the real deal, I'm there. But when I know you're not authentic, you're inauthentic, you're not genuine, you always acting shady when I'm around. No, I'm not here for it, like I'm not. So it's like, you got to just, and also too, I was talking to my friend the other day, that first time you meet somebody, whether it's on social media, Michelle, in the Clubhouse, whether you're emailing somebody, that's your first and only time to make a first impression, right? So it needs to read well. It needs to, if you're a music artist, make sure that link to your Dropbox for your EP is in there. If it has to be sensitive and password protective, so be it. But just make sure that you have the components that you say to the journalist or the person you want to work with. I've included A, B, and C, and D, and make sure that A, B, C, and D are in in that email, because people don't have a lot of time. Like you got to hit them that one time, knock it out the ballpark, and just keep it moving. So, make sure it's done the right way the first time. Because people are not, even if they're interested in you, Michelle, they're not circling back. And this is the other thing. Now, if you're going to do a one sheet for yourself and your brand, your company, whatever, if you're an artist, whatever, if you're going to do a press kit, one of my biggest pet peeves I've seen, Michelle, is that people will do this elaborate thing and have no contact information.
When you miss the mark, just like that.
And the thing is, Michelle, you know how busy we are as PR people and marketers and journalists. Journalists don't have time to go find your social media, to go find an email, and then I get there, ain't nothing there. Nah, on to the next.
Especially if you have a common name and I'm not able to distinguish.
And I'm not able to find out who you are. I'm not doing all that. You know, it's got to be ready to go. Like I said, that one sheet has to have your contact information. You know, that press kit has to have your contact information ready to go, your social media links, Michelle. That one sheet is fine as long as it's well prepared, maybe a nice visual at the top, you know, maybe a social media links to your music, and then just a contact number, contact name, and email. That's it. You know, but it's just easy to get in touch with you. That's the whole point. You know, everybody likes to throw stuff up, but I'm like, you don't really know what you're doing. Like, don't do that.
So can you explain a little bit more in detail, what is a one sheet and what goes into a press kit?
Oh, sure. A one sheet, like my friend said yesterday, is like a resume. Like you give them like the highlights of your career, the highlights of your company. Maybe I would just do like a visual, maybe your company logo at the top, and then maybe a description, how you got started, when you were founded, and then maybe, you know, notable media outlets, and then maybe, you know, pictures of Forbes, pictures of the Washington Post, XM Satellite Radio, and then your social media links, and then your contact information. It's a one sheet. It's just like an overview. And then people can get in touch with you. Because my one sheet is pretty litty, I have to be honest. So that's the one thing which I was like, Daria's crazy. One sheets are dope. Okay. So then the press kit is like the one sheet. In my press kit, I have my one sheet also in there. But your press kit is more exorbitant, more elaborate. So in your press kit, you actually can show, you know, the media outlets that you got it and that were printed. You can have that article in there. You can have your publicity, maybe 1 to 2 publicity photos in there. Whether you're an artist or a company, you need to have headshots that are really well done, professional looking, not done by, you know, cousin and them, but a real photographer. But a real photographer.
Hey, I have the new iPhone. I can't use my new iPhone to take the headshot.
You can do whatever you want, Michelle and Gomez. But the thing is, honestly, on a serious note, if you're doing the iPhone, like my sister is a celebrity makeup artist, Joy can make a picture off an iPhone look like, you know, somebody high fashion took it, or, you know, but if you don't have those skills, like I don't, graphics are not my ministry. Okay. I keep telling my sister, she's really visual and graphics and celebrity makeup and all that. I'm the writer, but I see the graphic in my head, but I have to translate it to somebody else. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
If that's not your ministry, then you need to hire a photographer to do a quality headshot. Yeah, that's right. And you need to hire a photographer to do a quality headshot. Make sure that your makeup is nice, not, you know, overkill, nice and professional, you know, got a little pop to it. Make sure your hair is nice, that you're looking good, and your headshot, and maybe give 2 poses. Like you don't have to do the same old, you know, tired poses or whatever. But, you know, and especially also, Michelle, if you're a creative, make it creative. You know, but make it respectful, right? Like you want to make it creative, but not go too far and crazy. And then like your press kit also, it's just a lot of ways you can do your press kit, like open up with your bio, like, you know, do a nice cover. So it can include your logo. Even if you're a music artist, you can have your logo there, present it to the person, the date. That's what I do. And then have your bio of your company or how you got started in the music industry, have like your 2 publicity photos, have your media outlets. And if you haven't been interviewed, don't worry about that. Just put maybe your one sheet. And then that last sheet, Michelle, should be your contact information, your publicist or your manager or maybe, the CEO for the company, their email address. And then people are so, they're excited. They'll get in touch with you. You make it so much easier when you have your contact information ready to go. So it's just, like I say, stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Absolutely. Even myself as a marketer, speaker, I have a one sheet. This year I have a one sheet. I've had a one sheet probably for the past 5 to 6 years that I've been in business. And I go back and forth with the press kit. It just really depends on what season I am.
Yeah, it changes. You always need to update it. If you get in Forbes, Michelle, you need to update it. Like, just always constantly updating your resume as well. Because sometimes I think, especially I speak for myself too, when you own your own company, sometimes you don't think about updating things. It doesn't come as naturally. But, if you have something that's amazing, you have to update it immediately and add it to your collateral so people can see it. Just keep constantly updating. Articles maybe 2 or 3 years out, maybe you want to take them out and just put new articles in. Or if it's like Forbes is evergreen. Like that can stay in your press kit forever. Like that's one of the biggest major like business, media outlets in the world. So I would always have Forbes in there. So it just, it just depends. And you need to just hire me as your publicist so I can assist you with this process.
There you go. You did say something earlier. You mentioned if you haven't had an interview yet, don't worry about it. However, what are some tips when it comes to gaining an interview? I know lots of times, like, I want to be on the Breakfast Club. I want to be on the Breakfast Club, right?
Okay.
But
that's good to know.
Who are you? Like, what have you done? So what are some tips that people can take to get that first interview and build up to the Forbes, the Breakfast Clubs, etc.?
What I would suggest is maybe, a lot of us like business owners and entrepreneurs and music artists and visual artists have friends who have like a podcast like yours, who have friends who are really good journalists coming up. So maybe you want to reach out to your network, have them interview you. And then, journalists can see how you interview, how articulate you are, how well versed you are in what you do. And then you can just build on that. So I would suggest, starting out with your network where you are, and then also just locally, Michelle, in your community. Like the Washington Afro-American, like being a DC native is a great place because they're really open to like, up and coming Black artists, up and coming, Black visual artists, et cetera, up and coming Black businesses. So maybe start with the Afro-American newspaper in your community if you're African-American. If not, maybe try to start with a community paper that doesn't have a huge circulation, but is well respected. There's different ways you can get your story out there. And you keep building, it's a building process. So by the time you may have 4 or 5 outlets that have interviewed you, and then you take it to, like in our DC area, you may take it to Fox 5 or NBC, Channel 4, and then they'll see what you've done, and it makes them much more interested in you because that means you know how to interview. You've already been interviewed. You're not new to this. You're true to this. So yeah, I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing that has worked for me is following some of the people that I admire and then going to their website and looking at their press page. And I'm like, okay, well, if we're in the same lane, maybe I can get interviews on these podcasts or these publications as well.
That's a good idea.
That goes back to research. You gotta research.
Again. And research, Michelle, instead of just, just thinking you know everything. And like I said, these kids don't even know how hard we had it. Like we had to go to I had to go to the library, Michelle, check out the Encyclopedia Britannica. Me and my friend, my close friend, Mike Street, University of Maryland, we would go into the Terps. We would go into the library and have to get some of our books on microfiche and print those out. That's old school, right? So we had to print them out. But the thing is, it forced you to not take research for granted. Like we were Afro-American Studies majors, Michelle, and we really in our major, and I'm grateful to this day, me and Mike were talking about this like a year ago, we researched everything in our major. We had to. So now I'm running my company. It's so easy. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it's so easy to research it because I'm used to doing that. It's, that's just, and just being a journalist, making sure, like, unfortunately, someone said that Bismarck, he had passed recently, right? So it's like, why do people do that? But anyway, so it's like, I'm in tears because I grew up on Biz. So it's like, that's my era. And I go back and I start seeing, everyone's like, oh no, he's not passed yet. Yeah. Take that down. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, like, you don't have to tell me twice. Like, that's someone's life. That's so important to the world for his contribution. Of course, I'm going to take it down. I didn't have it, the only reason I did it is because I saw it on a very reputable hip hop music, entertainment website, Michelle. But once I started hearing it, I was like, nah, I got to take it down. So it's just about researching and making sure you vet as many sources as you can before you share on social media. Because some people just share stuff. I'm like, that's not even a real website. Like, as a journalist, we can look at it. Michelle, you know what I'm saying? We can look at it as marketers and journalists or publicists and be like, that doesn't even look like, that's a fake website. Like, you're not even checking to see if that's a real website or not. Like, you gotta vet everything, right? Like you can trust to a point, but you gotta verify.
I know the times have changed. I'm a little bit younger than you, and the times have changed. But I think sometimes people get siloed when it comes to picking careers. So what advice do you have for people to get into the entertainment industry? Because yes, we love the rappers, the singers, and the actors, but they need marketers, they need PR, obviously. They need accountants and stuff like that.
Michelle, great question, sister. The biggest thing I would say is the music business.
Okay.
Like when I was younger, I'm thinking, me and my sister met Puff Daddy in like 1991 at Howard. Wow. And we're like, ooh, he was sitting next to us. And the only reason he stood out to us, Michelle, quite honestly, is he was tying his oldest son's mom's shoe, Misa's shoe. And, girls, we were like, oh, that's so sweet. So we were like, oh. And then the only reason he stood out says it was a hip hop convention. Howard used to do it like 1990, 1991. And we met Five Dog that year. Like everybody was there. And so the only reason Puff Daddy stood out to us is because he said Andre Harrell was on the panel. Andre Harrell, rest in peace. He said, what do you think, Puff? Puff Daddy comes out of nowhere. First you get on college radio. Then you do this. Then you do that. Then you do this. And we were like, who is this guy? 5 years later, everybody knew who this guy was, right? So it's just about like, it's like the one thing I love about Puffy's story, whether you like Puff Daddy or not, I really respect his grind. There's not too many people who work as hard as Diddy, Puff Daddy. I'm gonna call him Puff Daddy. It's my generation. It's not too many people who work as hard as Puff Daddy did. He went to Howard, and then on the weekends, Michelle, he would take the train from DC to New York to work and intern at Uptown Records. Like his work ethic is crazy. And I'm like, you can say what you want, but at the end of the day, Puff Daddy's work ethic is crazy. And then I'm circling back to, you want to be in the entertainment industry? Realize it's not always glitz and glamour. There's some real hard work going on behind the scenes to make these stars look as big as they are. It's a whole team behind them, number one. Number two, make sure you get into it for the right reasons. It's not always fun. It isn't. And then being a Black woman CEO is definitely not always fun because they always try to discount and minimize my brilliance, but I don't let them. Bloop. Like, I'm Liddy in my own right. So you're not going to tell me who I am. I'm going to tell you who I am. And I'm going to tell you who God says I am. That's number two. Bloop. That part, Michelle. Number three is just, you got to make sure it's something you love. Because the entertainment industry, music industries are not a game. Some days I'm so irritated with people. Some days people are just getting on my nerves. My mama get on my nerves. My sister get on my nerves. people get on my nerves I work with, it's like,
I think that's just society at this
point. It's like, you just gotta love it, Michelle. Like, that's what sustains me, is that I love what I do, right? Like, even the days it sucks, I love it. Like, there's nothing else in my life I wanted to do than what I'm doing right now.
So with that being said, can you give us some insight on how you pick your clients? Because, I think everyone needs a publicist at some point, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good fit for you. So what do you consider when getting a new client?
You know what a good fit for the Daria Fennell Media Group is? A client, Michelle, who works as hard for themselves as I work for them. We're collaborators. This is not your publicist does everything. You still, if you're a music artist, Michelle, you still got to be creating music, right? You still got to be going to the studio every other day. If you're an actress, you're going to, I know it's a pandemic, so we're not doing a lot in person right now, but you got to be, creating your videos, sending them over to casting directors. Like, you got to do the work. Like, you got to do your work. And also, too, I had somebody reach out to me recently, and it was a young sister who was a rap artist. And it was like literally, Michelle, one of the most vulgar things musically I've ever heard in my life. And I had to be honest with them. I said, I do not represent clients with this type of music. I wish you well. It's just also knowing what I'm going for. And then my other dream is, Michelle, and I've been speaking to existence, it will happen. I'm a DC girl, but I love, love, love all genres of music for the most part. I love country music, and I will represent my first country music artist as entertainment publicist very soon. I'm not your stereotype.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Right? It's just knowing what's a good fit for you. Yeah. And not every client is a good client either, right? Now, all money is good money, right? So make sure it's a client that's in line with your brand message. And not just your brand message, Michelle, and in line with your value system. Like the young sister, I wish her well, but I don't represent vulgar Black girl rappers. That's not my lane. It may be some other publicist's lane, but it's not mine.
I think that's so important, because once you know that, you're going to enjoy the work, right? That's why you love the work, because you love the clients, you love the work your clients are putting in, which makes your work easier to pitch. So
it makes when you love what you do, and when I'm excited about my client, of course, I'm going to, do a great job. This is baseline. But Michelle, when you're excited about your client and, your client is exciting and makes you excited to work with them, it's a whole different energy that goes into that. Yeah. And it just makes you want to reach out to the journalists like, you passed my client up, you're crazy, because they about to blow up.
I love it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're crazy. So it's like, I love to see people and help them amplify their dreams. I call myself a dream amplifier. You know what I mean? I just want you to do well. And it's like, I want the world to know how dope you are.
I love it. Before we wrap up, any, final thoughts, last piece of advice that you would like to share with the audience?
Great question, Michelle. Thank you for having me, number one. And number two, enjoy your life. If anything the pandemic has shown me, unfortunately, I lost 2 friends to coronavirus at 48 years old. And if nothing else, enjoy your life. Go after your dreams. Don't let people minimize you and tell you who you are. God created you for a reason. Live your purpose. Go after your dreams and ask for help if you need help. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't be so proud that you don't do well. If you're depressed, and I just want to touch on Black mental health really quickly, especially for creatives. Yeah. If you need help, ask for help, because unfortunately, one of my friends is a singer, and his friend, a young sister, 26 in LA, committed suicide a couple weeks ago. And it really bothered me. I didn't know the sister, but it doesn't matter. You were valuable. Your life was valuable. And I just want everyone to know that, even during the pandemic, God loves you. We love you. If you need help, open your mouth. No stigma. Just get help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know even for me, founding the African American Marketing Association, yes, we're a group of marketers and we want to help support each other within our marketing career, but I'm a big advocate of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely have those resources
Excellent.
to share with people. The main one I go to is melaninandmentalhealth.com, and they have a directory of therapists nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
But
I love that. But you also know Taraji P. Henson has a big time, the Boris L. Henson Foundation, in ode in honor of her father, who had severe mental health challenges when he got back from Vietnam to the States. And she has a list also, Michelle, of mental health therapists, and they also give out grants to different sections of the Black community so they can get like their first 5 free sessions with a mental health therapist if you apply. Yeah. So it's a lot of options. And I'm glad the Black community is starting to really talk about the mental health, because our people have been so traumatized through these centuries from the Middle Passage to this day, and it's like we never really healed. We just keep going to the next thing instead of healing our minds and the trauma that our ancestors and the trauma that we as Black people now in 2021 face. Anytime a Mr. George Floyd is murdered, it's trauma. Like all of that's trauma. So it's like, it's nothing. Yeah, all of that is just horrible. It's like, it's nothing wrong with asking for help. If you just feel isolated, you're at home, or mostly all of us are working from home now, it gets very, very isolating, and I'm a born extrovert. I can't stand it sometimes because I'm like, girl, I like to be out and about, at the album release party, kicking it, drinking in the Moet, being, a rap stereotype.
No, it's true.
Stereotype. But I just love people, and it's hard for me too.
Yeah, I mean, I learned so much about myself during the pandemic, and it's like, I really do. I miss hugs. So touch is really, really important.
I just miss, the hug is so important. See, we took all of this for granted, and I think that's why God did it, right? So one, set us down. Like, you don't always have to be busy.
Be still.
Be still. And then my parents are both from Georgia, and my mother always impresses on me, Michelle, just having that quiet time. Like every day, at least for an hour, I'm turning off my phone, turning off the radio, just having peace and quiet is like so underrated. And then just having, taking care of yourself, good self-care. I love chocolate. That's my thing. Chocolate and gummy bears, gummy worms. So, I was sitting there in a piece of quiet, eating my gummy worms and my chocolate, and just, just doing a good self-care. But then also too, I think the last thing I'll say is being good to those people who are good to you.
Amen. Yeah.
I always say, Michelle, amen. Like I always say thank you to the publicist that interviewed, that I interviewed their celebrity client. I always say thank you to the journalist that interviewed my client, my PR client. People do things, Michelle, and I tell people all the time, people do things for you because they like you. Mm-hmm. They don't have to do it. So you need to say thank you and show some appreciation. And at the end of the day, have some damn home training.
Some common.
I'm done. No. Daria out.
Those common courtesies go a long ways.
They do. Just saying thank you, Michelle. Yeah. In my career, I can count on my hands how many times people have said thank you for interviewing their artists, or interviewing their client. And it's not a lot. I've done tons of interviews, what I mean? But there's only a few people who said thank you, and that always stuck out with me. It sticks out because it's like, wow, it's so rare, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Oh man.
This was fun. I really appreciate
pleasure.
This.
Last thing, can you provide your website and any social media?
Okay, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, of course. Thank you. It's the article THED as in donut, F as in Frank, mediagroup.com, the DF mediagroup.com. On Instagram, I'm at the Daria Fennell Media Group, THEDARIAFENNELL Media Group, MEDIAGROUP. So I'm on Instagram. I have a website. So yeah, they can find me. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not really on Twitter. But yeah, Twitter, I'll just give them my Twitter. I don't really check it, so you don't have to really go there. It's at Daria F Media, DARIA capital F MEDIA. So I would love to hear from you all. And like I tell people, if I'm busy, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'm a woman of my word, and you got that.
Yeah.
And on that, like that.
Okay. There is an absolute pleasure. We're going to have those links in the show notes. Once again, thank you to the listeners.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Michelle.
Please follow and support her, and put these tips to use. I want to see
everything.
Please do. Thank you for listening to Marketing for the Culture podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe, whether it's on Apple, Google, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. And of course, our videos are on YouTube. If you have a moment, feel free to give us a rate, review, or just comment. We appreciate our sponsors for their continuous support. Also, if you're interested in learning more about our sponsors or becoming a member of the African American Marketing Association, visit aa-ma.org.